right, I think we will get started. It looks like we've got quite a few participants who have joined, and if we have some other joiners, we will make sure they get started here with us. We'll start with some introductions. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate you taking some time to jump on Zoom and learn more about our early middle college program. My name's Lisa Bartel, and I work out of KRESA and help to coordinate the EMC program for our county, working with the students in our school districts in the county who are participating in the program. And I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Dr. Deborah Coates.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome, everybody. I am Deborah Coates. I am the Dean for Dual Enrollment and Early Middle College at Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and we partner very closely with our friends at KRESA. And I'll pass it on to Mandy.
Thanks, Dr. Coates. Hi, everybody. My name is Mandy Smith. I am an EMC mentor, and I support students, sophomores and juniors in the schools of Climax, Scotts, Galesburg, Augusta, Kalamazoo Central, Loy, Norix, and Parchment, and seniors within KPS. So it's nice to see you here tonight. Thank you. And I'll pass it to Anna.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. We're excited to share lots of information with you about the Early Middle College program. My name is Anna Patton, and I'm also one of the mentors for the program, servicing juniors from Comstock, Schoolcraft, Vicksburg, missing one, Comstock, Schoolcraft, Vicksburg, and then seniors from Climax, Scotts, and Galesburg.
All right, thank you, everybody. Okay, so we have a presentation that we're going to show you this evening, and then I will do a screen share here in a moment. Before I do that, there is a Q&A button that you can access on the bottom of your Zoom screen. That is where we would like you to put in any questions that you might have throughout our presentation. So please put those questions in there. We will take some throughout our presentation. We will also save some time for questions at the end as well. So I am going to share my screen and we will get started with that presentation. All right, so we did our introductions. Okay, so moving right along. What is the Early Middle College program? So EMC is a rigorous 5-year high school program that combines all of the high school diploma requirements and requirements for that first college credential, whether that be associate's degree or a certificate from KVCC. Our students are enrolled in a focused program of study at the college. We have a list of choices that they can pick from, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Students have access to support services through the college, through their high school, of course, through our EMC program, and we will talk more about those supports. And those are an important piece of our program which help enhance the student success. And tuition and fees for the courses are paid for by the local school district up to an allocated amount, which is set by the state of Michigan. What are reasons why your family might want to consider the early middle college? One nice thing about EMC is it provides a supported transition from being a high school student to a college student. So unlike students who finish at the end of 12th grade and, may not have taken any college courses yet, and then they jump in kind of full-time and then in that next fall, our students kind of increase their college classes over the course of the time in the program, and they have those supports to just help them transition from successful high school student to successful college student. Right now, education beyond high school, beyond the diploma, is more important than ever. Many careers require 1 to 2 years of post-secondary education. As we have built this EMC program over the last handful of years, one of a major goal has been to be a pipeline for those companies in our community here in Southwest Michigan, and to help fill some of those demands for those certificate and associate degree positions. EMC allows a student to complete their first college credential and start their career path a little earlier than a normal 12th year graduate. And that is one reason, that students choose this, is because they are feeling excited and interested in getting started on that career path, and that they can start that, that gradual transition in their junior year. And another reason for consideration, of course, is the financial benefits of the program. With college costs continuing to rise, having districts help with those tuition and fees is a great benefit to our families. A little bit more about that labor market demand. Back in 1960, you can see that about 60% of jobs were what were called unskilled jobs. These were jobs that could be obtained with a high school diploma and, a little bit of training on the job. Nowadays, in 2018, just a few years ago, only 10% of jobs in our labor market were in that unskilled category, and almost 60% were in the skilled training category, which is where those 1 and 2 year credentials would fall. So there's a much greater demand in that area, and then we have about a third of jobs that require a 4-year degree or more. Another way to look at that is this ratio of jobs in the economy. For every 1 job that requires a master's degree or higher, 2 require a university or a bachelor's degree, and 7 require a 1-year certificate or a 2-year associate's degree. So again, we're seeing strong demand in this last category, and the EMC programming is set up to help fill those demands, and also has some transfer options for students who are looking to go on for a bachelor's degree.
So when students begin in the early middle college, they are a college student and they're going to embark on a program of study. We have 2 paths from programs of study. We have an Associates of Applied Science, which are career-ready degree programs, and then we have associate's degrees, which will transfer. So our Associates of Applied Science have nested degrees. A student could start out with a Certificate of Achievement, which is just a few credits to earn some skills, to get them into a job while they're continuing their school career. Then those degrees nest into a certificate program, 30 or more credits, and finally into an Associates of Applied Science, or that associate's degree that is a career-ready, head of household wage kind of earnings. We have some examples of those certificates of achievements that have been vetted so that we know that that your student is going to be able to complete their high school program and their college certificate of achievement along the way. These nest then into a certificate, and you notice that those are fewer. That's because there's more pathways into the certificate, and then finally into the Associates of Applied Science, that career-ready job associates. We also offer transfer programs. These are Associates of the Arts and Associates of Science, and they transfer to all four-year universities in some fashion, but we work really well with Western, our neighbor, to make sure that what we offer and what they're learning in their high school courses will flow seamlessly into a bachelor's degree at Western. So we have the Associates of Arts, and in those there's a few that you can see here. Minimum 62, most 64 credits. They transfer to those 4-year universities. We work on their general education and the Michigan Transfer Agreement credits to get them started. And then we also have the Associates of Science. And you'll notice there's not quite as many of these. That's because these are very laboratory heavy. It's very difficult for a high school student to get all of their lab sciences in at the same time that they're working on their high school, maybe doing their sports, maybe have a job. So we know that these are 3 that will work with all of the demands that are placed on our students.
So this slide's talking about how the 5-year plan works. Really, our students dig deep into college classes in the beginning in that 11th grade year. But when we call the 5-year plan, we're talking about in 9th grade being a year of application to the program. So right now, our EMC application is open through the first Friday in March, March 5th, and we would encourage freshmen to make sure to complete that application. We do accept applications from 10th grade students as well. The biggest piece there is we need to make sure that students in 10th grade have been able to take a course in their local high school called College Success Strategies. The name varies slightly around our county. For Kalamazoo public students, this would be College Readiness. And in Climax Scots and Schoolcraft, this course is embedded in their BMA, their business management course. So that is a required class for EMC to help students prepare for their first college coursework. There's a lot of important topics in there on, study techniques, test-taking strategies, how to read a college textbook, those sorts of things that we want them to have before they get started. Students may also take a CTE or EFE or EFA course in the 10th grade year, depending on what program of study that they are interested in. They may also take one of those courses in their 11th or 12th grade year, depending on their program of study. In 11th grade is when most students begin those first KVCC classes, and they'll have a couple of Valley classes and then, a half day of high school classes. As they move into 12th grade, it will be more college classes, less high school classes. And in that 13th grade or 5th year, our students are all full-time on the college campus, regardless of which program of study that they are following. So even though they are still a high school student and they don't receive their diploma till the end of that 5th year, they very much feel like a college student in that final year, since they're not going back to the high school for anything unless they choose to. Some of our students, go back to visit their counselors and so forth, but all their coursework's at the college. And they are required to complete a final year math class for their last high school diploma requirement.
So when students are taking classes through KVCC, they could be on any of our campuses. They could be downtown at the Arcadia Commons campus, taking classes in Anna Whitten Hall, in the Center for New Media, or even in the Kalamazoo Valley Museum. They could be on our Bronson Healthy Living campus, taking classes in the Culinary and Allied Health Building or at the Food Innovation Center. On our Groves campus, taking classes there, or at our Texas Township campus, taking many of our classes that we offer. We also put some classes at our local high school, so your student may have to do nothing more than walk down the hall to take a KVCC course where we've sent one of our faculty into the high schools to teach our classes. So a family can expect some different things from early middle college. One, these are college classes. These are rigorous college expectations. So whatever a traditional age college student would be expected to do in the class, your student will be expected to do in that class. Instructors may hand out a class syllabus the first day of school and never look at it again, but expect that that student is following along and meeting those due dates and those expectations. We also operate under the Federal Education's Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, and that's going to look a little bit different. And frankly, can be a little intimidating to families, because those federal education rights to privacy tell the college that that student, regardless of their age, as soon as they enroll in a college class, is a college student, and all their rights to privacy fall to them. That means we are not allowed by federal regulations to share anything about their grades, their attendance, their schedule with anyone unless they've given us permission. So we work with KRESA and to get that permission so we can chat back and forth and put those safety nets in place. There is a course management system, it's Canvas, and that course management systems, our faculty may choose to put much of their work in there. Some may not use it at all. But we're going to ask your student every day to check their email, you look at their Canvas site, make sure that they're following along. They may be required to read something in Canvas, to post something in Canvas, to do a quiz or a test in Canvas. And so that's where all the communications are going to happen. We are going to ask them to use their KVCC email. That's the only way that we're going to communicate with your student, because we know that that is the student. We don't know who else is out there. Thank you. Our program calendar, our program calendar is different. The most important part of the program calendar is that our spring breaks are different. So this year, because of the COVID, we shrunk our spring break. We're no longer having our spring break the first week in March. We've got a long weekend in April, but usually the college takes a week-long spring break the first week in March. And the high schools take that same spring break the first week in April. We expect your students to be in our classes during high school spring breaks. We also assume that the high school expects that from our students as well, to be in the high school classes during the college spring breaks. So if you are a family who in your 12th grade year decides that it's time for a family trip as a senior present, we would like you to consider to do that in the 13th or that 5th year rather than the 12th grade year, so that the students have one dedicated spring break and they're not being torn between missing classes and being on a family vacation. Each faculty member will take absences differently. Some, if you're absent for X number of times, your grade level drops. It depends on each individual instructor. So you're going to want to check those course requirements in the syllabus. We offer accommodations for students who need them. So if your student currently has an IEP or a 504, we'll have you work with our Office of Student Access to get the right requirements that are needed to be successful in their classes. There are many supports offered on our campus for all students, regardless of whether they need accommodations or not. We have a learning center, we have a writing center, a tutoring center, a computer center. We have a laptop loaner and Wi-Fi hotspot loaner program. All of these are available to your students at no charge. So we want your students to use them. We have a wonderful fitness center will be post-COVID open to students again. So all of these are open to your students. They can go to our sporting events. They can be part of our club teams. They can join or create their own club with 9 of their other best friends. So there's something for everyone on our campuses.
I think we will pause and address some of the questions. I see we've had a few questions that have come in, so this I think is a good spot to take those. I think Mandy's going to help us out with those questions.
Sure, thanks, Lisa. I did write in some answers, but I love that we can discuss this here. So one of the first questions was, am I able to take the test required for entry online?
Yes. You can. We would prefer that you come in person, but absolutely you can make arrangements through a testing center to have take the AccuPlacer online, and it would be a proctored test at no charge.
Thank you. And the next question is, how can we find out if there are credit transfers to another college to complete a degree?
Well, the beauty of this is that every semester, and I know Lisa's going to touch on this in a minute, so I'm stealing her thunder just a little bit, but every semester we work with your student with an academic counselor or advisor to make sure that they're on that right path. There are on our website, there are transfer guides that are available. If you search on kvcc.edu, you'll be able to find some of those as well. But the best thing is to use one of our trained professionals that can look at the ins and outs and to help you and your student know that you're taking the right course to get you where you want to be.
Thank you, Dr. Coates. The next question, if you didn't take the class your sophomore year, does that mean you can't do EMC?
No, not necessarily. You know, we try to look at what our options are there. I would encourage an email, and we can kind of communicate about the choices. You can email me directly, lisa.bartal@krisa.org. That'll be up later as well. Or emc@krisa.org will get you to me as well. And we can chat a little bit. It kind of depends on which district that you're in and when they offer that course. There may be, I know there is third try options in Parchment, for example, if you're a Parchment student, where you can still get into that class this year. So we can kind of get into the specifics a little bit more if you could send me an email with student name and school, and kind of look at what those choices would be. We can usually work that out.
Great, thanks, Lisa. And one more, can you do both EMC and IB diploma classes?
I would say that IB diploma classes, yes. The full IB diploma, probably not. You know, to being able to fit in all of the classes that the IB diploma requires and the classes that EMC requires would be very difficult. I would say the same thing about CAMSI. If a student's looking to do a full program at CAMSI, it would be, you know, I don't believe they would be able to fit all of those courses and all of the necessary EMC courses. But again, if you wanted to reach out through email, we could kind of play that out a little bit, and I could look at some examples with your particular district and their schedules. But both, you know, those programs both have certainly a certain number of requirements to be met. So typically we see students choosing one or the other.
Great, thank you, Lisa. That's all for now.
That's all for now. All right, we will keep going. Okay, so supports. What type of EMC supports are available? Dr. Coates mentioned some of the great supports that KVCC has on their campus. On here, we're going to talk about some of the specific to EMC supports that students who are choosing, you know, to participate in the program would have access to. We're going to start with our mentor. Our students are required to have a mentor and meet with them regularly. And we have Anna is on here with us, and she's going to talk more about that role of the EMC mentor.
Right. First of all, basically, like Lisa mentioned earlier in the presentation, the main purpose of the mentoring is to assist the student with the transition from high school to college classes. We do meet with our students every other week, and for at least a half an hour, or about a half an hour, 20 minutes to a half an hour. Pre-COVID, we met face-to-face, either at their high school or in an office that we had at KVCC. And right now we're doing it via Zoom because of the COVID situation. We're hoping to get back face-to-face as soon as we can. But basically we help students with what are the differences between high school and college. That's usually at one of our first meetings in the fall. We talk about those differences. We do discuss academic progress with the students. We talk about grades. We talk about how'd you do on that test last week? How were your midterms? Is that paper done yet? You know, things like that. Helping them communicate with instructors, like they're young in many cases, and how do they communicate with instructors as well as other students in their classes. A lot of times they're in classes with students who are, you know, 35 years old or 60 or something like that, which is very different than high school. And then also, sometimes we're just really good listeners. There have been times when I've sat and just sat back and just listened and nodded my head, and the students vent, and then when they get it over, it's like, oh, thank you for listening, you know, kind of thing. We also assist with, you know, developing good success strategies, good learning skills, connecting, like Dr. Coates talked about, connecting students with the resources at KVCC, helping them even to find where they are sometimes and what they need to do to access a tutor if they need one. And at their high school, we do that a lot of times too. They have the best of both worlds. They have resources at both places who can work with them. One of the things though that I always like to tell my students first thing is that I will be your biggest cheerleader. All of the mentors are, other than maybe their parents, but you know, we're always constantly cheering them on and providing them with positive encouragement, and sometimes, you know, encouragement that might push them a little in cases. But we are very dependable ourselves and engaged and authentic, and we expect that from our students as well. Mandy, do you have anything else to add to that?
That was perfect, Anna. I echo everything that she said, and also just want to add how rewarding these relationships are that we're building with students. Anna has been through the program with students from start to finish already, and I'm actually just starting, and it's been a great experience. So, you know, I know that we want our students to get out of our meetings and our relationships what we're getting out of it, and it's just a very rewarding thing.
Thank you, guys. Other supports. So you've heard some mention about the college success strategy, of course. We also offer cohort events for our EMC students. So these are events for the 11th graders or the 12th graders as they're moving up through the program, providing them with some timely information to help with their upcoming year. Kickoff, refresh, rising fifth year are what we call those events. Our mentors use Canvas, which KVCC, as you heard, uses as well to post some information and resources about their meetings or follow up to their meetings. We also use Remind for communications and reminders to our groups. Yeah, Dr. Coates mentioned KVCC college advising, and in the younger years of the program, those college advisors, again, pre-COVID, come right into the high schools and meet with students and help them with what they should be taking in those upcoming semesters. And we've transitioned those meetings to, to virtual meetings at this time. Placement testing has also been offered in the high schools at times. Right now, that's being offered at KVCC in person, or as Dr. Coates mentioned, there's some virtual options there if that is what you would like to access. We have an EMC specific orientation, events, workshops that KVCC offers for our students. And finally, transportation is available through the CTE, EFA, and early middle college bus hub that we run with schools that participate in that. And that, typically students who are utilizing that bus hub will go out in the morning and take their KVCC classes in the morning and then come back and have their high school classes in the afternoon, and it can get them to and from campus. These are the skills that we have found are most helpful, necessary for success in the early middle college program. You've heard some of these referenced throughout our presentation, but just wanted to have a slide that sort of compiled those important skills. Self-discipline, a growth mindset. Students are going to learn a lot through this program. Being proactive, time management is very important throughout the time in the program. And our mentors have, some curriculum around that topic and talking with students and helping them strategize about what tools they can use to manage their time. Organizational skills, communication skills, so important. Communication with the mentor, with their instructors, throughout their time. Just like in high school, it's very important that students attend their classes at KVCC. Good attendance and being present, whether it's a Zoom or an in-person class, really helpful in success. And finally, but not least important here, is we have a lot of great supports, and students need to access those. The students that are utilizing those, they're asking for help when they need it. Those are strengths, and those students are finding success in the program. So these are skill sets that if students don't come into the program with these necessarily, we're helping them to build those skill sets to find success. The next few slides are common questions that we get about the program that we built in for you. A lot of times people are curious about how the high school graduation works. EMC students are encouraged to be a part of all the senior activities in their high schools. Senior send-offs and senior award ceremonies and the graduation ceremony itself. All of our school districts support and encourage that, so our students can celebrate with those students that they've went through school with, some of them for many years. They will also get an EMC completion ceremony at the end of fifth year, so they get to have a few celebrations. And for those students getting that first KVCC credential, they're invited to be part of KVCC's graduation as well. Students, as I mentioned, are not physically at their high school in the last year. They are full-time college students. They don't receive their diploma until the end of that fifth year because they are still completing some requirements. I mentioned that math requirement in that final year. And we often get asked about sports. Students are not eligible to play on official school-sponsored sports in that fifth year due to MHSAA rules and college athletic rules. They can be on clubs those sorts of things, but not the official KVCC sports team or their high school team. Our students that are transferring on to a four-year university after EMC are considered freshmen for admission and scholarship purposes. This is an advantage to our students because there is typically more freshman scholarships available than there are transfer. The reason this is true is because all of the credits that the students have earned were prior to getting their diploma. So because they achieved them all prior to their diploma, they are considered freshmen to that university. Once they're accepted and their credits are then transferred over, if they're coming in with an associate's degree, 62 plus credits, they're likely to have junior level credit standing once those credits come with them. Students must reimburse the school district if they fail or withdraw from a course. So that's why we have these great supports in place. We really want to make sure our students are successful with their college coursework and that they don't have to have that reimbursement. Other reasons for wanting great grades, because those poor grades in college will negatively impact their high school and their college transcripts. It can also impact financial aid if they're going on after the early middle college. So again, we want those grades to look as positive as possible. Federal financial aid is not available until after the 5th year, after early college, once that student has their diploma. So our students fill out the FAFSA in the 5th year if they are continuing on after EMC, rather than in the 12th grade year. The EMC program, the funding through their districts, that's taking care of the tuition and fees, through that 5th year. So any FAFSA completion or financial aid would be for after early middle college. Completion of an associate's degree is not a guarantee. We certainly have a lot of students who do achieve associate's degrees. We have a lot of students who achieve certificates. Different students have different goals of what they're looking for in our program, and we are looking to try to help each student meet their goals. Some students want to take things a little slower on the college course side. Some are feeling ready to really, ramp up more quickly. So depending on those scheduling decisions, how things are going, if their grades are strong, what their goals are, all of those things are factors in whether they might complete a full associate's degree by the end of the program. One other common question that we get is, what's the difference between EMC and dual enrollment? So this slide is meant to just kind of show what we would consider the main differences. A dual enrollment student can enter or exit taking college coursework throughout their time in high school. For early middle college, it is a state of Michigan requirement that students must be in the program by the start of their junior year. Dual enrollment, students would work with their counseling office at their local district. Course selection may be more limited for dual enrollment. In our early middle college, students are taking classes towards that planned program goal. So that certificate, that associate's degree, depending on what they're trying to achieve, and their courses are going to be within that program. Dual enrollment students are encouraged to meet with a college counselor before they enroll in courses, where EMC students, it is a requirement that they meet with college advising at least twice a year prior to each term of courses to talk about next steps and what those classes should be and confirm that a student is still on the same program path. Dual enrollment ends after the 4th year of high school, and EMC provides students that 5th year status to keep taking college courses and earn up to that associate's degree. EMC also has all the extra supports that you've heard talked about tonight throughout our presentation, including that mentorship. So how can you get involved? If you've listened to the presentation tonight, students and parents, and you're feeling like this program is a good fit for you, The next step would be completing that online EMC application. Again, that's available through March 5th, so you'd want to make sure that you jump on and get that taken care of by then. You can access that through our website, krisa.org/EMC, and then it'll just say EMC application where you can get into that. Once a student has completed our program application, there are several additional steps that they will need to do. They will receive in their application submission, in that first step, they will get an email with a link to our steps for participation, which gives them a lot of details about what to do next. Some of those what to do next are going to be applying to KVCC, which is also an online application process, and participating in the placement testing that we talked a little bit about earlier. Our EMC students take the same placement testing as anyone who's looking to attend KVCC. And they do need to achieve the minimum scores needed for the courses in their program. I work with the local districts, and we will communicate out with students, letting them know of their EMC application status and kind of reminding them of those different steps in the process. And again, for more details on that, you can reference that document on our website, or once a student applies, they will get a link to that document in their submission email. We do have a great video of our 12th grade and our 5th year students talking about their experience in the program. We're not going to show that on our presentation tonight, but we do encourage you to take a few minutes to watch that video after we finish up. You can find it right on the main page of our website. And again, it's current students telling you what they enjoy about the program, why they would recommend it to other students, and just providing some insights. We think we do a pretty good job talking about the program, but it's really not the same as hearing from those students too, and letting them tell you about their experiences. So we would really encourage you to take a few minutes to look at that once we conclude. All right, so that brings us to our final slide here with some websites referenced, but also an opportunity for us to address any additional questions that you might have. So I'm going to hand it over to Mandy to let me know if we've got any questions in there right now. And if you have not already put your questions in the Q&A, please do that so that we can help address those for you right now.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. So we do have a few more questions. Here's one. If you don't finish the program, do you keep the credits?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, any credits that are earned at the college as part of EMC belong to that student and will remain that student's, and for whatever future steps after us. So yes, no loss of credit. Sometimes people ask if there's any sort of financial penalty, and there is not. Sometimes there are some good reasons why students decide that they can't stay all the way through that 5th year. We have had students who've been offered some athletic scholarship opportunities and things like that, and we certainly do not want to hold them back from any of those things.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa, and thanks, Dr. Coates, for jumping in there too. I see that you responded as well. Another question is, how do I become a librarian?
You're going to want to take a transfer associate's degree, probably associates of arts, but I can't answer all of those questions. Our trained academic counselors and advisors can, and they'll guide you through the steps that you need to become a librarian.
Thank you, Dr. Coates. And it looks like this is our last question in the Q&A, and it's, is there any previous EMC graduate applied and admitted to other colleges such as U of M, MSU, etc.?
Are there any of those? Is that the question, Mandy?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Mm-hmm. We have had 3 previous completing groups of students. So this year will be our 4th cohort, as we call it, of completing EMC students. So we definitely have students at universities, students who have finished up at universities. in a number of different schools and areas. If you have a particular university or program that you're curious about, feel free to send me an email and I'd be happy to answer that. One example that I share is we have a student who was in our very first group, and she went on to Western for education, elementary education. And she, this year, was hired as a Head Start teacher for KRESA. So she has kind of come full circle. That's just one of, many success stories. But I'm happy to share, if there are specifics you're wondering about, just reach out.
Perfect, thank you. We are getting some more questions. So thanks, everybody. Keep those questions coming in. Another question about placement testing and how do they do the placement testing?
So placement testing can be done in person. You come into our testing center, bring an ID, and wear a mask, and it's all done on computer. If you're unable to do that, or whatever reason, you can make arrangements to take a proctored exam in your home, or perhaps your high school counselor has access to be able to do that. Doesn't cost anything. Takes about 90 minutes. There's 3 parts. There's a reading, writing, and math that you would take. You don't have to take them all at the same time. Within about 4 to 6 hours after completing that AccuPlacer placement, it goes into the KVCC system. We can see your test scores, and you are ready to work with a mentor and advisor to select your classes.
Great, thank you, Dr. Coates. Another question, have there been issues with transferring out of state to college that we are aware of?
There are some issues with community colleges, not just early middle college, but community colleges transferring out of state, even with the traditional students. For example, Notre Dame, for example, won't take any college class earned while the student is in high school. That's whether they go to Western and earn take a college class, or whether they come to our campus and take a college class. They simply won't take it. So if you're planning to go out of state, you've got some homework to do. You need to contact that out of state school, find out what their requirements are, bring those back, and then work with our academic counselors and advisors and your KRESA mentors and coordinator to make sure that you are on the right track so that you don't have wasted time and wasted credits. We don't want you to take a class here and then have to take it again someplace else. So you've got a little homework to do.
Thank you, Dr. Coates. A question about the College Success Strategies class. Is that one that you can take virtually?
So we are in the process of creating a virtual option for that course. If students are doing the KVIC program, there's a number of virtual options around the county right now, so this is kind of a broad question, but I will just say if students are full-time KVIC students, there is an option to take College Success Strategies virtual. And for next year, we're looking at, developing some other virtual options. So really the best place to start with that question would be your local district to ask them what they have available. And you could also, reach out to me as well, and we can talk about your district's options and what they have currently.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Regarding the placement testing, is there a way to study for that?
You could go to accuplacer.com and take some practice tests. So yes.
Great. Thank you. Which I think probably just answers the next question. Are there any practice tests available to take before taking the placement test? Yes, accuplacer, you said .com, Dr. Coates? Perfect. Thank you. All right, looks like we have one more. For current freshmen, when would they take the placement test?
For current freshmen, so they would take it, we have them take it as part of the application process. So they're going to apply to the program, they're going to apply to KVCC, they're going to take the placement testing over the next, 4 to 6 weeks here, I'm going to say, as part of their application process. We want to see where students are at, where those benchmark scores are as they're getting started. We do have opportunities where students need to take those tests again throughout their time in the program. That's not uncommon. So they may need to retake their math tests down the road when they're getting ready to start that first math class. But we do ask all students as they're applying to take those placement tests as part of that process. And I'll mention too that in that steps for participation document that I mentioned earlier that gives details on each step, it does have some links to those practice tests that Dr. Coates and Mandy were mentioning.
Perfect, thank you. We had a couple more come in. One participant did ask to put the link out for accuplacer.com, so I put it in the question that I answered in the Q&A, so everybody, you can find that in there. A good question here, I may have missed this, but you mentioned that this is covered up to government max amounts. The tuition, I'm assuming, is covered up to government max accounts. Do you ever see times where the cost has exceeded that amount? And if so, approximately by how much? I realize this can be variable.
Yeah, good question. So it is variable, and it kind of depends. So it's kind of a district specific question. If you want more details than I'm able to give tonight, you can reach out to your district about that, because depending on if they're on trimesters or semesters, or they have 5, 6, or 7-hour days, all of that goes into the per course amount that's covered for the tuition and fees. The general answer is that, you know, that typically that amount covers KVCC tuition and fees, but there are times when there is some overage that needs to be paid by the families. If a student's taking some contact heavier classes, like a trades class or a science lab or something like that, where they have extra contact hours, that may go above the covered amount. The other thing is in our district that students do pay for their textbooks up front typically, and then they are reimbursed for those at the end of the semester if there's money left in that allocation. So sometimes there are some upfront textbook costs. Much of the time that's reimbursed, but not always, depending on how much the tuition and fees were and whether there's money left in that allocation.
Great, thank you. There was another question that came in about placement testing, and the question was, so the placement test needs to be taken by March 5th, to which I responded, they need to complete the online EMC application by March 5th, and the placement testing will follow.
Correct, yeah.
All right, that appears to be all of the questions right now in the Q&A.
All right, well, those were lots of great questions. We appreciate you guys putting those in there. Again, just want to thank you so much for giving some time this evening to join us and learn more about the program. If you do have other questions that come up, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to your district counselor. They're familiar with the program as well. And, you know, happy to answer any questions that you have. And if you are interested in participating and you are a 9th or 10th grade student, just make sure to jump on that application and get that filled out by March 5th. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.